Hello, welcome back. Today I have a favorites and fails for summer. Well, I think it's like the beginning of summer. I just looked it up. Technically, it is still spring until June 21st, but it's about to be summer, so I'm going to share my favorites of the moment and some products that let me down. Actually, though, I will say my fails in this video are not like the worst fails, but they have some problems and I want to share them. So let's jump in. Okay, starting off with favorites, we'll save the fails for the end, but I want to start in skincare. Just one skincare favorite right now, and it's actually from the drugstore. I feel like today's video, I have a really nice mixture of like drugstore, high-end, skincare, makeup, perfume, like we've got it all. But this is from Peach Slices. This is the sister brand to Peach and Lily. It's also a little bit more affordable, definitely sits more at that drugstore price point. And this is the Redness Relief Smoothing Serum. I am falling in love with the Redness Relief line. I've talked about the azelaic acid serum before, which I've actually repurchased. I'm on to my second tube of it. But this I have to talk about as well. So I have super sensitive skin. It can become very easily irritated. And if that is you, I think you're gonna really love this stuff because it's incredibly soothing. Some of the main ingredients are panthenol, Centella asiatica, a lot of like calming and soothing ingredients. And I find that this serum, first of all, I love the consistency of this. It's very gel-like, so I feel like not only does my skin feel hydrated, less irritated, less red. Not that I struggle with like the most redness, but I know this line in particular is supposed to be wonderful for those that have rosacea, and this kind of calms down that redness. But that very gel-like texture makes my skin feel super hydrated. I would almost describe the consistency of this as a slightly thinner version of the Dew Drops from Glow Recipe. And you know how much I love those under my makeup, so I feel like the days that I'm wearing this in my base, my makeup just sits better over top of it. So it's soothing, hydrating, like my skin loves this stuff. Would definitely recommend. Okay, makeup favorites. I feel like I have a mixture of products that are like pretty new and some that are older, maybe I've had for a while, that I can't stop using. Starting with this foundation. Any get ready with me or any like video where I'm applying makeup, you have watched me wearing this lately, and like, look at the dip. Like I'm about to be, like I'm going to use this up, honestly, probably pretty soon here, and I probably will repurchase it because I'm obsessed with this stuff. This is the Tarte Shape Tape Cloud Coverage. Weirdly, I feel like I don't hear anyone talking about this. It's only available on Tarte's website or Ulta. They don't sell it at Sephora, but I did see when I was getting ready for this video that they sell this in a mini, and the mini is only $16 versus like $40 for the full size, so I will link both. I wear the shade 20B Light Beige, and this product is what I wanted, like the e.l.f. Camo CC or even like the IT Cosmetics CC cream. Like this is one of those types of products, but I find this to be a much better formulation than those ones. Those two were always like a little too thick for me. They didn't look as natural. Whereas this formulation, yes, it's like a thick consistency when you pump it out. It's not thin or serumy, but it blends onto the skin and it sits in a way that doesn't look cakey or heavy. It doesn't appear thick or even visible on the skin. Like it's rather undetectable. The finish of this is like a hydrated, glowy look without being like super dewy. It's definitely not matte, but it's not so glowy that it looks like artificial or too much. It's very skin-like. It's beautiful. Like I don't hear much about this, and I feel like it deserves more hype. This has been a little bit polarizing. This is the new concealer from Natasha Denona. I love this. Here's the thing though. You can't use a lot of it. Even like, so I filmed the demo clips before this. Even in that, I was like, I feel like I'm applying a little too much. The thing with this, a tiny bit goes a long way. You can just do a little dollop and you're going to get a significant amount of coverage from just that alone. I have mine in the shade N4, and this is like my perfect shade match. Like it is perfection. This formulation is super high pigment. So it's not, again, the texture of this is not thin or serumy. It almost is thicker, but not in a way that is cakey or noticeable. It's just in a way where it's like there's a lot of pigment to the formulation. And I find that texture provides the most smoothing finish. So I would compare this to something like the new Flower Beauty Get Real Serum Concealer, the Catrice Concealer that I love so much, or even like the Milani Conceal Plus Perfect. I would say any of those are good like drugstore alternatives if you didn't want to spend the $30 on this, but I think this is worth it. I have been using this nonstop. I use this both on my under eyes and to spot conceal if I have any like blemishes or acne scarring. Like I'm using this all the time. Not new, but new to me is this eyeshadow primer from Milani. This is, okay, it's just called the eyeshadow primer, Milani eyeshadow primer. And this was a recommendation from Steph from Beauty Unhyped over on Instagram. And I did a video earlier this month, well, I guess technically it was last month, testing out YouTuber favorites. Well, Steph is not on YouTube, but creator favorites. And this was her recommendation. And surprisingly, I had never tried this, even though I have heard about this a lot. Like I know people really like this eyeshadow primer, but it's new to me and I love this. I would say this is a fantastic, I have like a hair in my mouth. There we go. Oh, that was attached to my head. This is a really similar product to the Urban Decay Primer Potion. That's what I was going to say. Fantastic dupe or alternative to that one, where the product applies clear. There's really no pigment to this. I mean, it has a little bit of, you squeeze it out and you can see color, but it's sheer on the eyes. A little bit goes a very long way. And I find this to be a slightly more hydrating option than some other eyeshadow-based primers that I like. So I love the Ulta Beauty Matte Eyeshadow Primer. I've talked about that one a ton, but that one definitely is matte and can lean dry. Whereas this I find to be a similar concept in terms of the longevity that it provides for me, but it's a little more hydrating. Okay, it's definitely starting to feel like summer. Like I'm sweating. I have two blush favorites and they're both from the drugstore. And I actually just did a best and worst drugstore blushes video, so I can leave that linked. I went super in depth, swatched them all next to each other, shared comparisons, but these are the two that I've been reaching for pretty much nonstop. So let's start with the one I'm wearing today. This is from Catrice. This is the Air Blush Matte. They also have a glowy version of this blush, but I have the shade Peach Heaven. I know peach blush is getting so big right now. I think a big part of that is, you know, we're getting near summer and something about these warmer tones. Everyone wants to be wearing a peach right now. So if you wanna participate in the peach trend, this is only a $6 blush. So I would definitely recommend this one. It's also super pigmented. I find a lot of drugstore blush formulations that are powders tend to be more sheer and buildable, but this one picks up really well on the brush and you get some immediate impact right away. I think this formulation is beautiful. It blends out well. It is creamy while still being a powder. Like it sits wonderfully on the skin. But if you're not into a matte blush, but you want a glowy powder, this one from Essence, okay. These came out a little bit ago. I had a different shade in this and I liked it. I liked the formulation, but the color didn't necessarily wow me. I wasn't using it a lot. But this shade right here, I am in love with. It is called Shimmery Rose. This is the 01, like the first shade. And it is the most beautiful pink, but it's not too much of like the blue undertoned, like baby pink that we've been seeing so much. This has a little bit more warmth to it. It's almost like a slight peachy essence to it, but it is gorgeous. It has some glow to it. This formulation reminds me a lot. I feel like I'm like, this is a dupe, this is a dupe. It's not a dupe, but this is very similar to the Hourglass Ambient Lighting blushes in terms of that baked glow that it provides. It's still very smooth on the cheeks, like it looks beautiful. Also very pigmented. Okay, what I've been loving pairing this pink shade with is this pink powder. I didn't think I was going to be a pink powder person, but this one from Jones Road I think has changed my mind. So they just launched these in a ton of different shades. They even have, first of all, a deeper pink that they call Rose. They have a yellow, they have some skin tone shades, they have a translucent shade, but this is the one that has stolen my heart. So the name of the color is just pink, and it is this very light kind of pastel pink. It looks a little bit intimidating in the packaging. I first saw it and I was like, is that going to translate on the cheeks? Is it going to look bright pink? But I find that this still sheers out so beautifully while having a little bit of a pink glow to it. So pink powders have definitely been pretty popular for a while now, and I know so many people use them on the under eyes. I think it's beautiful there because it kind of seamlessly blends into the blush. But you can wear this all over your face, and the brand actually recommends that. They say that the pink is supposed to be very brightening to the skin, and I find that to be true. I don't have pink undertones, but I still find that like this looks really beautiful. I was worried at first thinking, okay, is this going to just make my foundation not really match? Like, is it going to look weird on me? but I actually just find that it does that beautiful brightening. Now I will say, what you need to do with this, when you're putting your brush into this product, make sure you work the powder into the brush. So I like really swirl around for a while and then sometimes even tip the brush over and like tap it in to make sure that you don't have too much of the powder on the bristles. Because if you have a bunch on the bristles, that's when you have the possibility of getting a pink spot on your cheeks. But if you blend it out really well and the product is worked into the brush well, it is beautiful. This is smoothing. It doesn't look heavy. It doesn't look cakey. It really doesn't even look too powder-like, but it still gives you that smooth, matte, beautiful finish. Like, it is such a wonderful formula. I was wrong on this one. When I first tried this, I was like, okay, what's the hype? I don't get it. And I heard so many people talking about this. I remember, especially on TikTok, hearing so many reviews, people were raving about it, thought it was so cool. And I was like, it's just a brow gel, you guys. Like, what's the deal? I finally come around to the REM brow gel. And this is a pretty unique applicator. So you have this like spongy side almost that's supposed to kind of pick up the product. And then you flip it over and you have these spikes. They remind me of like a rubber bristle mascara wand. So you first apply it with the like little spongy side, and then you flip it over and take these spikes to comb through the brows. Now, the first time I tried this, and first time I heard that concept, I was like, okay, what's the difference between just using a spoolie? Like, a spoolie also picks the product up and works it through the brows. And it does, but something about this two-step system I find just works the product into the brows better. And I really love the hold that this gives. Now, my eyebrows are very fine. They're easily weighed down. So if you have super thick eyebrows, you may or may not like this. If you've tried this and that is your brow type, let me know. For me, a lot of eyebrow gels that are supposed to be super long hold actually make my eyebrows fall flat like faster. Like, a lot of them are just too heavy for me. So I like that this one is a little bit more lightweight, but I feel like it just glues them down. And I'm actually almost out of this and I'm going to repurchase it. Fragrance favorites. Okay, I have two actually. The first one is one that I've changed my mind about because I actually used to hate this, but hear me out. This is the Skylar Boardwalk Delight fragrance. So this was originally available as a roller ball, and I had it I had it as a roller ball. And this was such a popular scent for them that it was supposed to be just like limited edition in that little packaging, but they made it permanent in the full-size bottle now because everyone loved this stuff. And if you watched a recent vlog that I posted, I can leave it linked down below, where I went through my whole perfume collection, decluttered a few of them. I mentioned in that video, I didn't want to declutter Boardwalk Delight because I kept thinking maybe one day I would come around to it. One day it would grow on me because everybody loves it, but I didn't seem to like it. And what did the change for me was the full-size bottle. So they did send this to me, and something about this formula, I'm like thinking of like cosmetic formulations. Something about this fragrance I don't think translates as well when you just sniff it like in the rollerball. Like when I had the rollerball, when I would smell it there, all you get immediately is that cotton candy note. It is so pungent that it makes the perfume feel juvenile and just not complex at all. But weirdly in the bottle, I think the scent translates a little bit different. And I don't find that cotton candy note to be as overpowering anymore. So some of the other main notes are pure vanilla and coconut milk. Now I will say this is definitely a very sweet gourmand scent. So you will either like that or hate that. But if you're into that scent profile, like, this one has grown on me and I have been wearing it so much. Okay, another sweet one, also very vanilla based. This is from Ariana Grande's brand. This is Mod Vanilla. And I love her fragrances so much. A lot of her fragrances are like some of my most worn ones. And this, I haven't even had that long, but I feel like you can see a really big dip in this already. Some of the top notes are plum, musk, middle notes, praline, jasmine, base notes, vanilla, cocoa butter. It's weird. Most of my favorite fragrances are like in the vanilla family, but I'm very picky when it comes to vanilla. More often than not, I dislike vanilla fragrances, but when I find one that is like this, that feels mature and complex, like I just gravitate to them immediately. And when we were in Charleston, I've mentioned this a few times, but Lauren May Beauty was wearing this scent, and every time she would walk by, I was just so drawn to it that the day we got home, I ordered it, and I haven't stopped wearing it. Okay, my fails. I don't think either of these are like the worst fail in the world, but I think it's going to depend whether you would like these or not, and I will explain. So let's start off with this sunscreen, okay? I like this, but I think it has some major cons. So this is the Dream Beam from Kosas. It is SPF 40. I do love the applicator on this. It is a squeeze tube. I think it comes out in a way that is very convenient, not messy, and it's a beautiful glowy formulation. But I find this to be a pretty finicky sunscreen to wear without experiencing pilling. So the first time I wore this, I did my morning skincare routine, which is pretty minimal. I don't like to layer too much in the morning. I like to keep it, minimal, like I said. And I always let that moisturizer and whatnot sink in for ample time before I go in with my sunscreen. But even still, the first time I tried to apply this over other skincare products, it was not working. It was pilling. Like as I'm trying to rub it in, it is rubbing right back off of my face. And what I have found to be the case with this, I'm only able to make this work when I have no other skincare on, which is kind of a bummer because I want to be able to do my morning skincare routine. I also don't want to skip moisturizer because I don't find this to be hydrating enough on its own to take the place of that step. But this is where I'm torn because it actually looks really beautiful when you apply it like that. And it's glowy, it just looks hydrating. It has a little bit of a tint to it, so I find that it evens out my skin tone. It almost looks like I'm wearing like a hint of makeup. Now, Kosas says it's not really supposed to be like a skin colored tint really. It's supposed to be peach to counteract any cast. But I do still find that that peach gives me some coverage, and it also is like really brightening on the skin because it is peach toned. That being said, I will say if you are even more fair than I am, if you have like porcelain skin, this might be like, you might not like that. Because of the tint, it might be darker than your skin tone. And I have seen reviews from creators that have a very deep skin tone saying they still get a cast with this. But for the most part, most of the reviews I've seen, I've heard people say they don't experience a cast. I don't, but I also have fair skin, so take that with a grain of salt. The finish on my skin reminds me of a more subtle version of the Supergoop Glow Screen or the new e.l.f. dupe for it. Like it's not as highlighter-esque as those, but it still has that similar kind of glowy finish on the skin. It's really beautiful. It's just a little harder to work with. Also, this from NYX, I'm kind of late to the party on this, but this is their Bear With Me Blur Foundation. I picked this up because I'm planning to do a best and worst of NYX. I'm thinking that's going to be next week. Stay tuned. Maybe a little after that. We'll see. But this one's like a half fail also because I do think there's an audience for this, especially if you have oily skin. And this product, even before I picked it up, I kept hearing such mixed reviews. People either like love this stuff or they're like, that is the worst foundation ever. And I completely get it because on my dry skin, I can only make this work when my skin is like skinning. Like when I'm having a really great skin day and it is hydrated and glowy, this will actually look beautiful over top. But if my skin is even like slightly dry or just, not its best, it's that time of the month, I have a breakout. No, don't reach for this. This is such a matte formulation, which is interesting to me because it's supposed to be the same line as their Bear With Me concealer, which is definitely a bit more serum-like and glowy. This is very, very matte. So on the days that I'm able to make this work with really perfect skin prep beneath, it actually looks beautiful on the skin. It's incredibly smoothing and perfecting. But I would say more often than not, I put this on and it looks pretty bad. When this isn't wearing well, it like really separates. I have either a picture or a video of the first time I applied this when my skin was like maybe a little dry that day. It looks horrible. Like it looked really bad. But then I have some days where I feel like my skin is on its best behavior and hydrated and this looks incredible. So it's like, that alone kind of makes this a fail for me because it's just not a consistent formulation. And while sometimes it looks beautiful, I feel like there are much better options at the drugstore. That being said though, if you have very oily skin, there's a chance you will love this. Everything will be linked down below as always. I do use affiliate links, so thank you if you choose to shop through them, and I will go ahead and see you in my next video. Bye!